We once were in awe of his prodigious exploits. These were more of an appreciation of his career at the Hall of Fame ceremony, of the effort just to make it back to the Masters after the crash and make the cut. And then there was his stand against LIV Golf. Tiger saying that with the guaranteed money, the incentive to dig it out of the dirt just isn't there. Tiger was asked about LIV earlier this week and the possibility of peace between the two warring factions.
Well, I see that there's an opportunity out there if both organizations put a stay on their litigation, but that's the problem. They got to put a stay on it, and whether or not they do that or not, there's no willingness to negotiate if you have a litigation against you. So if they both have a stay and then have a break and then they can meet and figure something out, then maybe there is something to be had. But I think Greg has to go, first of all, and then obviously the litigation against us and then our countersuit against them. Those would then have to be at a stay as well. So then we can talk. We can all talk freely.
Do you think these organizations can coexist?
Right now, as it is, not right now. Not with their leadership. Not with Greg there and his animosity towards the tour itself. I don't see that happening. As Rory said, and I said it as well, I think Greg's got to leave. And then we can eventually, hopefully, have a stay between the two lawsuits and figure something out. But why would you change anything if you got a lawsuit against you? Now, they sued us first. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's whether it's going to be me, Rory, or the tour or other players being, I wasn't necessarily a peacemaker, but I just think that there's a window, I think, of opportunity for us from both tours to figure this out shortly, but I think that window's closing just because the majors are coming up now, and they're going to have their own criteria for the majors, but if they can do it quickly before that, but again, that goes back to LIV and their lawsuit. They are suing us first, and then we countersuit them, so they have to back off the table, then we'll back off the table, and then we have a place to talk. But their leadership has to change as well. And if that doesn't, then I think it's going to continue to go down the path that it's going right now. Well, the message is that we can't compete dollar for dollar with PIF. We physically can't do that. But what we can do is talk about better opportunities for younger players getting onto the tour and what it means to play the tour, how important it is, how important it is to have a legacy. Be able to win major championships. As of right now, we don't know where the major championships stand on this. So if you're a tour player, you already know that you're in the major championships, you're in the top 50. So, okay, that's a guarantee, but the other players don't. They're taking a chance of never, ever, ever getting a chance to play major championships. Right now, there's a lot of animosity, especially from their leadership. And they want to be a validated tour with world ranking points, and they're buying up tours around the world. And I don't know what their end game is. It might be just being an official member of the golf ecosystem and being recognized with world ranking points. I think that's where their intended goal is. They've spent probably close to $2 billion this year. Who's to say they can't spend $4 or $5 billion next year? We just don't know. It's an endless pit of money, but that doesn't necessarily create legacies either. You want to compare yourself to Hogan, you want to compare yourself to Snead, you want to compare yourself to Nicklaus. You can't do that over there, which you can on this tour.
He makes a good point there. If you're wondering, what is PIF? That is Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, which is backing the LIV Golf Tour. Tiger saying no willingness to negotiate so long as there is litigation against the PGA Tour. And then he also added, Greg Norman must go. With more from the Bahamas, let's once again go back to Todd Lewis. And Todd, what's your sense on the ground there in the wake of the meeting Tiger had that was attended, as we understand it, by all 20 players in the field at the Hero Challenge?
Well, Tiger is trying to rally behind the PGA Tour and assemble all the great elite players on this tour to make sure that they are unified. If you go back to Tiger Woods' press conference at St. Andrews, Rich, you and I were there, and he was emphatic in trying to sell the fact that the PGA Tour, because of its legacies and because of its history, is a much better tour than LIV Golf. This press conference here this week was much different. Instead, I felt like Tiger was more concerned about the game of golf for fans, because it is so fractured with these two bodies that fans may be turning away because you don't really have the best competing against the best each and every week, with LIV Golf on one side and the PGA Tour on another side. I was a bit surprised to hear him say there is an opportunity here, of course, with parameters, as you mentioned, Rich, that Greg Norman has to exit the conversation in regards to LIV Golf. He has to leave LIV Golf, and the fact that these lawsuits, LIV Golf suing the PGA Tour and the Tour countersuing LIV Golf, have to go away, then maybe there could be a conversation. I could tell you, as recent as 5 months ago, that wasn't a possibility for the PGA Tour. They did not want to have a conversation at all with LIV Golf. So there seems to be some bending, it seems, by the PGA Tour, at least coming out of the mouth of Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. And when Rory McIlroy speaks, yes, it is very well heard. But when Tiger speaks, the decibels are higher. And as you mentioned, he gathered every player in the field here this week to talk about making sure that they are unified moving into 2023 with these elevated events and their constant combat now with LIV Golf. So Tiger Woods, he may not be doing much on the golf course, but as Justin Thomas said this week, off the golf course, this may be the best year, or one of the best years ever, for Tiger Woods as a professional golf, as he tries to not only save the tour, but in his eyes probably save the game.
All right, Todd, not sure what compromise with LIV would look like. Paige, what's your reaction to what you heard?
I took the same out of this conversation as Todd did. The tone appears to have changed to be a little more conciliatory, and that there may be a path forward with concessions, with different things happening, Greg being one of them. I look at it a little differently because I'm an LPGA Tour player, and this is a situation where LIV could very well take over LPGA Tour. I don't think it's going to be as much of a sticking point because the money would be so much more, potentially so much greater. So you have to look at it, I think, and perhaps Tiger thinks, as an opportunity cost. If the Saudi money, if PIF decides to go elsewhere, they go to tennis, they go to put more money in F1, golf would then potentially lose out on a significant investor.
But what? So it's just about the money at that point.
I'm saying that there's an opportunity cost. There's a potential opportunity if you were able to, in an appropriate way, come together. And I think that's what I'm seeing as the tone shift, is that if this were to go somewhere else, if you blockade them from investing in the game of golf, if you were able to strong-arm them, if they never were able to get television, if the world ranking couldn't be fixed in a way that gets their players into major championships, then perhaps that would go elsewhere, which is fine. Perhaps there's people and players that say that's fine. But there's also a significant opportunity.
You mentioned television. So long as LIV Golf does not have traditional television coverage, I think the tour is in decent shape. You ask your friends what they're doing on a Saturday or Sunday, they will say, I'm watching the golf. I'm watching Jordan Spieth or Justin Thomas. I'm watching the golf. That was different. You might have said a couple of years ago, I'm watching Tiger. But generally speaking, I'm watching the golf. And for the most part, the golf has been the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour. That's it. Again, so long as there's not another the golf to look at, I think the tour can stave off the threat from LIV. Though I don't think they're going anywhere. And as Joe Ogilvy, who really knows the game, former tour player steeped in economic acumen, told me, $3 billion is hard to squash. And the Saudis have a lot of money. We know that.